Ah, yes, Universal Studios. I believe that's on Sentosa
Yes,
Island.
Sentosa, one of our most prized place in Singapore.
Yeah. Actually, I stayed there once in a hotel, the Hard Rock Hotel. But I think it's gone now, but maybe it's still there. I don't know.
I think it's still there.
Is it still
but
there?
the general price for Sentosa, it's a lot higher than outside, so...
Yeah, it was very expensive. Yeah.
Hello. Welcome to the Easy English Interviews Podcast Season 2. My name is Chris Kent. I'm an Associate Professor of English as a second language in Japan. This podcast has been created to give English students some easy and interesting listening practice. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the next interview. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 3. For today's podcast, I would like to focus on two things. The first thing is the use of the simple past tense. In Japanese, this is called kakokei. Past tense uses the past tense form of the verb in the sentence. This is usually done by adding an ed to the end of the verb, but some irregular past tense verbs are used as well. For example, the present tense sentence, I stay at the hotel, would be, I stayed at the hotel last year. An example of an irregular verb would be, I begin the lesson, which would become, I began the lesson yesterday. Another way to show that some action was done in the past is to use the past tense of the verb to be. In English, we use the word was a lot for past tense. For example, it was hot yesterday. During today's podcast, please listen to how the past tense is used. Particularly, listen to how Saran and Chris talk about the past near the beginning of the episode. The second thing I would like to focus on is the use of tag questions. A tag question is when you make a statement and then add a short question to the end. For example, I might say, it's very cold today, isn't it? The tag question is the two words, isn't it? This speaking strategy is very useful if you want to ask a question quickly to make sure that what you're saying is true. This type of question also helps to get the listener involved in the conversation. I think it is the easiest way to make a question in English. Finally, at the end of today's podcast, as usual for Season 2, listen to the comprehension questions and feel free to try to answer the questions in real time if you can. If you need to, write down the questions first and then listen again to practice answering. 今日のポッドキャストの最後に理解度に関する質問を読み上げます。それを書き留めてから、ポッドキャストを繰り返し聞いて、私が質問するときにリアルタイムで答えを言ってみてください。Okay.Let's start today's interview.
Okay, today we are going to be speaking with a very special guest, and he is here all the way from Singapore, and his name is Saran. Thank you for coming, Saran.
No problem, glad to be here.
Okay, so first of all, can you tell us where you're from?
So I'm from Singapore. Since Singapore is like a rather small country, I would say I'm more towards the west side. So I'm closer to Malaysia than anybody else. I stay in the extreme west. But since it's Singapore, basically I travel 30 minutes to school. Everywhere it's nearby for me.
I see. So do you enjoy living in Singapore?
I would say Singapore brings comfort, but for entertainment-wise, it's not really the best place to be because it's small. There won't be much entertainment. The best you can have is maybe Universal Studios, if I'm not wrong. Yes.
Ah, yes, Universal Studios. I believe that's on Sentosa
Yes,
Island.
Sentosa, one of our most prized place in Singapore.
Yeah. Actually, I stayed there once in a hotel, the Hard Rock Hotel. But I think it's gone now, but maybe it's still there. I don't know.
I think it's still there.
Is it still
but
there?
the general price for Sentosa, it's a lot higher than outside. So
Yeah, it was very expensive. Yeah. Okay, so let's start the interview. So first of all, can you tell me what school you go to and what you are studying there?
So I'm currently schooling in Republic Poly Singapore. My current major is Infocom Technology. The reason why I pursued Infocom Technology was generally because of my passion for programming. I like to twist like algorithms around, solve problems, and IT was just the best role for me.
I see. Okay, that's very interesting, and I think something that is quite difficult to study, is it not?
It is, but I started off at a really young age, so I would say I've had an advantage over everybody else.
Oh, okay. So you started quite young. But how long have you been studying at the Polytechnic?
This is my third year currently, also known as the last year, so it's my internship year.
Oh, okay. So you do 3 years total, and the last year involves some type of internship.
Yes.
Is that why you came here to Nagano-Kosen?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay. And why did you decide to choose this place to come and study?
Well, so general reference is in Singapore we have two types of internship. One is local and one is the foreign internships. So the foreign internships are regarded more highly compared to the local internship, because like if it appears on resume and you say that you've been to Japan for like internship, they'll be like, whoa, you know. So rather, other than the aspect of trying to like wow them, I guess it was a good place to get my independence, because I'm away from my family. I don't have like, you know, so I'm trying to adult here. This is my start of my adulting.
Right. Yes, I think traveling overseas alone is a very good way to kind of mature quickly.
Yes.
Because you have to rely on yourself, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay, good. And so now that you're here in Japan, can you tell me about your daily schedule? Like, what do you do during the day?
This is one of the most tough schedules I have to follow, because even in Singapore, I do not wake up this early.
Oh, really?
So in Japan, right now, my schedule is 10 to 4 every day with 12 to 1, which is lunch break. In Singapore, however, it's more of like, I either go to school for like 1-2 hours and then I head back home and I fall asleep. And usually it's in the afternoon. So it's really hard for me to adapt to this. So I'm trying my best. I've been late quite a few times.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I think waking up early is kind of a skill that you have to learn. You can't just do it right away, right? Yeah. Well, that's an added difficulty for sure. And how about after school? What things do you do after school?
So right now, compared to Singapore, everything is nearby, right? So I have like McDonald's 5 to 10 minutes away, but here the nearest food place is about 20 minutes walk. So I tend to cook for my dinner on Saturdays and Sundays, or not, it'll be cafeteria food. Other than that, I'll be working out. I got my own pull-up bar. I'm sharing with the international students. So I'm just trying to take my mind off Japan in general right now, because I think it's quite hard to adapt right now, because it's quite lonely as well since you first enter as a foreigner. But of course, the international students are doing their best, and Japanese students are also talking to me. But it takes a while because language barriers.
Yeah, language barriers are tough, and especially if you don't have much time together, right? Because it really takes time to start to understand each other, I think. So, and how long do you plan to stay here in Japan then?
So it's until January 31st, so there will be a total of 4 months in general. But I'm planning on coming back for a holiday in April with my friends.
Oh, nice.
So yes.
When you come back for the holiday, is there some other place that you want to visit?
It will be mostly Tokyo area this time, because I've been to the Nagano side, which is I think the south, was it?
Well, central, kind of in the middle. Yeah. I think Tokyo is a very good place to visit, because it's very easy to get around in Tokyo, and you can go from one part of Tokyo to the next very quickly, and it can feel very different. Tokyo to me is a bunch of small cities all together in one. So I think you'll really enjoy it. Yeah,
I think so too. Just the expenses will be really high, but I'll be looking forward to it definitely.
Yes, it can get expensive, but I was really shocked actually when I came to Japan that the expense of it kind of depends on where you go in Japan. I mean, you can definitely get cheap food and cheap accommodation if you find it. So I think you can do it. Yeah.
But the whole point would be to go there and enjoy yourself rather than budget. So, I mean, there will be budgeting, of course, but you want to experience and enjoy the most.
That's
Since
true.
You don't really come to Japan that often. I don't really come to Japan that often.
That's right. And, you came all this way, you might as well enjoy yourself, right? Okay. So can you tell me, what is the best thing about living and studying in Japan?
The weather here is really nice. Like
Weather?
in Singapore, it's 31 degrees, so you're definitely sweating as long as you get out. Even though like most areas are air conditioned, but here I don't have to worry about sweating. There's no like foul odor. The only downside maybe would be the waking up, but even the food for cafeteria food's actually pretty good. And it's cheap, so I'm charged like $7 a day for lunch and dinner, which in Singapore that's really far off because I'll be spending about $20 just for lunch and dinner.
Right.
So it's cheaper, weather's good. Generally, Japanese people are all very friendly as well. As I noticed, they were all very outgoing. They came to me, they greet me, they talk to me and stuff. So,
Oh, that's good. So then what do you think the worst thing is about living in Japan right now?
right now, everybody's an early riser. I see my dorm mates waking up at 7 on Saturdays, which Singapore, that's definitely not a thing because even in Singapore, I wake up at 2 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays. And like we tend to enjoy ourselves by sleeping more.
I see. Yeah, I think that's definitely true. That I noticed that too. Even young people in Japan tend to be early risers. Yeah.
So I have this dorm mate, his name is Eric. So he told me that on his early days he wake up at 7:30, but he like to spoil himself by giving him more sleep, and he wakes up at 8:30 on Saturdays. That's an hour difference. I don't see the point. But yes.
Both seem early to you, right? Okay, my last question for you. Oh no, I have two more questions. My second to last question is, what do you plan to do after this study abroad is complete?
So actually, there isn't really much choosing for the first 2 years once I reach Singapore because we have to attend mandatory national service. So I'll be going to the army for 2 years. After 2 years, that's when the actual plan starts. I'm planning on going for university. I want to study computer science. Just because my passion kind of like lies there.
Right.
So I want to get as much as possible and then probably just start off work and build a family. That'll be the end goal.
Sounds very good. Well, I hope you can do that. And my last question is, because this podcast is for students, do you have any advice for students who are studying a foreign language? Obviously, you've done a very good job learning foreign languages, so can you help them out in any way?
So in Singapore, we have to learn technically two languages, English as one and then Chinese as my second. So the way I learned Chinese was basically to watch shows, read books in Chinese, like those simple ones. So I went from storybooks to novels. And then from movies, I watched those cartoons because cartoons tend to use simpler words.
Right.
And then it's, even though you don't know the meaning sometimes, when they express it, you can kind of like feel out what does this mean. So even for Japanese, so I watched anime for like 4 years. So I kind of understand what they are saying sometimes. So it kind of helped me a lot here. Yeah, so the best way is just to watch shows, especially if you enjoy watching shows. Why not do it for fun?
Yeah, and I think watching TV shows can help you to learn the rhythm of the language as well.
Definitely.
And I think rhythm is part of listening, right?
Yes.
If you can follow the rhythm, then you know that when there's a kind of a high point or a question sound, you know that's probably a question. If it's a pause, you know, usually something important comes after the pause. So learning the rhythm is a good way to learn a language. Okay, well, thank you very much, Saran. You've been a wonderful guest, and thank you very much for coming today.
Thank you, and I'm glad to be here.
Okay, and I will talk to you again soon. Okay, here are today's comprehension questions. Number 1. What part of Singapore is Saran from? Number 2. In what part of Singapore can you find Universal Studios? Number 3. What type of internships are regarded more highly in Singapore? Number 4.
What does Saran think is really hard to adapt to in Japan? Number 5. What type of barriers does Saran find difficult to overcome? Number 6. What is Saran planning to do in April? Number 7. What does Saran think is the best part about studying in Japan? Number 8. What is the name of Saran's dorm mate? Number 9. What does Saran want to study in university when he returns to Singapore? Number 10. Saran said that he studies 2 languages in Singapore, English and what? Alright, thank you for listening, and as always, please like or subscribe on your favorite platform. Can't wait to see you again in episode 4. Bye from Easy English Interviews.